When talking about video games and the inevitable conversation comes up about DLC, it's hard not to mention Borderlands series at least once or twice. Whether it be the sheer amount of content for Borderlands 2 or the smaller, more consistent quality content for Borderlands pre-sequel. Borderlands series has gone hand in hand with DLC since the beginning, like alcohol and bad decisions. This relationship goes all the way back to the original Borderlands and the 4 pieces of DLC released for it. I remember playing these when I was a lot younger and had a lot of fun playing them, but now I'm older and have a little more experience. Let's see how they hold up. And what better place to start than the first DLC release for it, the zombie island of Dr. Ned. The plot is as follows. After the opening of the vault in the first game, the vault hunters take a contract to travel to Jacob's Cove, a far-off and spooky-looking island in the middle of nowhere that has a slight problem with brain-eating undead. You arrive there with two goals: uncover secrets behind the infection and find the cure. The plot is simple and really isn't anything special. Most of the characters are forgettable, except Dr. Ned, who has some occasionally funny lines, but outside it, there is really not a lot to talk about here. The biggest problem with this DLC is that it makes few noteworthy additions to the base game and has some downright bad design choices. This being a zombie DLC, most of the things you'll be shooting are zombies. There's a few different types, so walking zombies, big Frankenstein zombies that throw explosive barrels, suicide bombers, hunchbacks, and vomiting zombies called defilers. It sounds fine on paper, but the execution is poor, and as a result, the enemies are really annoying to fight. The defilers in particular are annoying, since their vomit slows you down, making you easy zombie food. And to make things worse, when the zombies attack you, they can take time off your fight for your life bar, which is pretty annoying and leads to a lot of cheap deaths. Gameplay aside, the graphics look alright. Some of the environments are alright and have a decent spooky vibe about them, but others are just reskinned areas from the base game, which is kind of boring and stupid. Overall though, would I say played? Well, if you got in the Game of the Year edition, then it's worth at least take a look at. There's some fun moments, especially if you have a friend playing with you, but there's really nothing standout here, and if you avoid it, you're not going to miss anything. Next up is Mad Moxxis Underdome. The story here is that Moxxis running an arena called the Underdome to find who's worthy of being her next husband. And now it's up to you to shoot your way through tons of bad guys to hopefully get some decent loot. One of the biggest issues with this DLC is that it's incredibly repetitive. All you do is fight the same enemies over and over before finding a boss, and then doing it all over again. The only thing that slightly breaks the tedium is that at the beginning of a round, you get a few randomly selected handicaps or bonuses. The other big issue of this DLC is that it is incredibly imbalanced. 90 enemies drop loot or XP, and they throw wave after wave of absurdly powerful enemies at you. So before long, you'll be swarmed and killed, which means to start from the beginning all over again. And having a friend does not help, sadly. Really, the only noteworthy thing this DLC adds is there's an item bank that you can go store items in and take items out whenever you feel like it. But in the original Borderlands, that's really not a big deal. Now we can get to the noteworthy DLCs, starting with the Secret Army of General Knox. The gist here is that after the opening of the vault, Alice is starting to get desperate, and the control over Pandora is running low. You're hired by Athena, an ex-Alice assassin, to deliver the final blow to Atlas, then kick them off the planet once and for all. As far as plot goes, it's better than the base game since it actually feels like the events are strung together. Still pretty loose, but hey, an improvement's an improvement, right? As far as gameplay additions go, it introduces a lot of new legendaries, and new weaponry, the Pearlescent, which can be obtained in this DLC. Most of the new weapons are fun to use and fun to collect. The game also gives you plenty of good areas for loot. This DLC also adds more depth to the Lance enemies, as now you have elemental troopers, mech troops, and even jetpack Lance. This DLC also introduces two new vehicles, which are stronger than the car in the base game, but don't do anything to fix the awful controls at all. As far as side quests go, there isn't really much of note here. Pretty much all the same stuff of collect this or kill that. As far as graphics go, there's really not much of an upgrade here. There's still only a bunch of grays and browns for the vast majority of the game. The only occasional bits of things like green and blue thrown in there just to remind you they had access to other colors, but they just chose not to use them. There is one last thing I need to mention before I get on to the next DLC, which is this DLC introduced what will become a staple of the series, raid bosses. The one included here is Clown Rex, and I can describe it in two words: loot pinata. The final piece of DLC here is Claptrap's Robot Revolution, which is not nearly as substantial as General Knox, but can still be fun. The plot takes place after the cliffhanger in the first game, where Claptrap gets struck by lightning or something, goes crazy, making him rally up all the Claptraps, start revolting against their human leaders, and start assimilating everything around them like the Borg. There's some decent dialogue from Claptrap here and there in which you foil most of his plans and irritate him to no end, which causes him to start flipping out. As far as gameplay goes, there's very little new here. The only noteworthy thing is new enemies in the form of claptraps, which are slow-moving bandits with easier to hit crit spots due to being in the center of mass. As for graphics, they're great and boring, no surprise there. Overall, it's interesting coming back to these after so much time playing the later games, Borderlands 2 in particular. There's still some charm to these just because of how simple they are, but there's a lot of flaws and sadly, time has not treated them well. But if you have a buddy with you and you want to waste some time, there's still a lot of fun to be had.